Hey guys! So in a little bit of a different location today, I decided to film in my office as opposed to the bookshelves where I've been filming most of my videos so far. So a little bit of change of scenery. For this video, I wanted to do a sort of reflective type of, just chat with you guys about what I learned at an author event that I went to recently. So I'll show you my little tag here. So proof of proof of purchase essentially, but I went to Temptation in the Triangle, which is an author signing event primarily for romance authors here in North Carolina. I went there as a reader. I didn't go as an author because I wanted to learn what it was like for the other authors who go to these events and who participate in these, because I'm still new. I have one book that I've published, but it's not a romance. My next ones are going to be under my pen name, which will be romances. So this is supposed to be like a learning kind of adventure that I went on, besides the fact that I knew a couple of the authors there. I knew, I'm in writer discords with some of them, so I already knew them. It was the first time I got to meet some of them in person, which was really fun. But for the most part, I was there to support them, wander around, check out some of the other authors, and I love to read romance on my own anyway, so it was the perfect kind of event for me. Most of the tables that were there didn't have, most of the authors that were there didn't have less than 3 books published. So they had at least 3 books that they had published that were under their name and that they were advertising for people to look at. Sorry, I've got cats deciding that now is the perfect time to play and scream at each other. That's not to say that people can't get away with just one book on their table and that it's completely boring, because it wasn't. There were plenty of authors there who only had one book under their name, and a lot of them were for brand new releases that were coming out or had just come out, and they had a whole spectacle of surrounding that new release. So they had games, they had giveaways, they had a whole bunch of things that were able to bring readers in that made up for the fact that they only had one book on their table. If you're going to only bring one book for this, as somebody who's, again, if we're taking key takeaways from all of this, what I learned is that if you only have one book that you are advertising or that you're bringing with you to this event, have plenty of copies, have an abundance of copies of that book, because if the idea is that you're hoping to sell them, signed copies, whatever, you're hoping to sell them. So bring a huge stock of them and have other things going on at your table to bring people in. So contests, giveaways, ARC signups, whatever else you can think of. There are a million creative ways to deal with it, but that's what I sort of learned out of that. The second thing that I learned is that, and something I already knew going in, there was going to be a ton of character art, of character profiles, character card, just any sort of artwork that goes into your book or themes around your book. Get it, bring it, put it everywhere. I had one author who, funny story with it. So at this particular event at Temptation in the Triangle, my husband and my husband and my friend went with us. And the second we walked into the door, there was this one author who was absolutely just a delight to talk to. She was absolutely wonderful, but she also made us laugh because she saw us walk in because we had early access. So we walked in and she immediately honed in on us, and she walked up and she very confidently was like, "Hi, let me talk to you about my books. Let me come over here. Let me show you." She was doing the ushering kind of thing. "Hey, let me show you my books. You're going to like it here." And, lo and behold, we did. I ended up buying at least one of hers and an anthology, which I'll talk more about later. But what made me laugh with that whole thing is, so she also had just so much character art. She had, stills that, artists had created for her work, just everything you could think of, and some NSFW stuff, which my husband and my friend are not particularly romance readers. They support me, whatever, but they're not really romance readers. They kind of went to support me and kind of hang out and have fun. So when they saw that, it was that, imagine the surprise Pikachu face, and they're just both kind of looking at all this artwork, and I was loving it. And after the initial shock, I guess, of seeing that kind of stuff hanging up all over the place, particularly at this author's one, my husband then leans in and starts going, "Okay, go grab that one. That one looks nice." He's pointing out and he's like, "Okay, go grab that one. That one I think you'd like that one." So character art, there's a ton of character art, and I'll show you some of the character art over the screen here as I'm talking for the rest of this so that you can actually see some of the examples that I got, because I got some character art and some cards and stuff like that that I picked up along the way. Now, the other thing that I learned, and this one should also be fairly obvious, but goodies, 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 free goodies, just everything you can think of that will go with your book, bookmarks, stickers, candy, you know, badge tags, whatever you have, whatever you want to include and give away to people, bring it, give it, have it out in droves. I had people literally throwing stuff at me, being like, here, take this sticker. Oh, do you want this other thing? Oh, here, you should definitely grab this while you're here. Oh, do you want an extra sticker? Oh, does your husband want it? Like, everybody wanted to give away all of their stuff. If I learned anything from that, it is the fact that if you're going to have a table and you're going to have, you know, stuff that you're showing people for your books, have as many goodies as you can think of. Make it match your book's theme. Most of the tables had some more generic ones that you can kind of throw in for fun, but most, I want to say 95% of the stuff that I got from this, like the little haul that I have, is specific to either the author's branding, their book, you know, what, you know, a particular theme, you know, just something related to their books, their branding, whatever. They had, you know, merchandise of some sort, or goodies, I should say, of some sort to give people. So I'll let that flash across the screen of some of the goodies that I got, which I can't even show you all of it because that would just take up, you know, 10 minutes of this entire video of just all this stuff. But I will go ahead and, you know, put some of that with some aesthetic music of some of the goodies that I got from this event. Another thing that I learned was that every single author also had what's called a book pitch. Now, a book pitch is basically just a quick elevator type speech about your book. So it hits just key points. It's very simple, very basic. I had one author, I believe, who, when I was like, oh, you know, what is this book about? She was like, it's Beauty and the Beast, but she's a grumpy witch. Done. Sold. I'm there. Take my money. But every single author had at least one pitch for every single book. What I took away from this as an indie author was that the more prepared you go into these with your book pitches, the better off you'll be, because you're going to get flustered. You're going to get overwhelmed with all of the people that are there, whether it's, other authors, readers, sponsors, vendors, that kind of thing. You're going to get overwhelmed. It's going to be easy to get overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed and I was just there as a reader. They gave me a really great, quick, to the point pitch. And I was like, all right, here's my credit card. The other thing that I learned, which ties in a lot to what I had just said, let's just cut right to the chase. These events can be really overwhelming. As somebody who is a little bit on the introverted side, I grew up with very extroverted parents. So I kind of know how to deal with things a little bit. But with that said, it's overwhelming. And the amount of people, just people in general, but, other authors who want to come and say hi, because it's a very welcoming community. Everybody wants to come and say hi. Everybody wants to come and check out what your table looks like. You've got to rest. You have to rest before these events. You have to rest after these events. I had most of the authors who I knew beforehand, who I'm in, a couple different writers groups with. Basically, all of them were like, yeah, I need to either were saying that they needed to rest after the event, or, oh, they wish they'd gotten more rest beforehand. But key takeaway, get some rest. It's a draining, even though it is an absolutely wonderful experience. It was so much fun. Again, I would do it again today if I could, but it is draining. It is emotionally, it is physically, sometimes depending on how big the event is, just draining in general. So make sure if you're going to do one of these events to get plenty of rest beforehand. Now, the last little bit of this is going to be about special edition stuff, which I had never thought to do something like this. Again, I'm still very, very new to this, scene in general. So never really something I even thought of, but a lot of authors brought very special, exclusive kind of items to the event, whether it was, again, special edition character art and that kind of thing, or whether it was a special edition book, which I have a couple of examples that I will show you guys that I got from the event. Now, again, I have a little video that I, filmed for my YouTube short, and I'll put a little clip of that off to the side so you can see that so you can get a better idea of all the books that I got. But these are just a few examples because I want to show you and they're very specific reasons why I want to show you these. So some of the authors did this really cool thing where if they had multiple books in a series, they would do like an omnibus, and they would have the omnibus editions for sale at these events. Now I got one of these, which it was a, you know, kind of a dual, not a duology, but it's like a dual, you know, 2 books in the series so far right now. So she did like just 2 books in the omnibus. And so it was Carter Pugh. So this is a special edition that she had for sale on there. And it's both of these books in one, which was really funny because when I talked to her while, like, again, literally handing her my credit card, and I was just curious, and I was like, you know, why sell the 2 editions in one? Like, don't you usually do like multiple books in one? And she was just like, well, when I want to sell somebody on my series, it's much more bang for your buck. It's much more bang for your buck to have multiple books in that series. So that way, if you get like just one book from the event and you'd never heard of her before, you have both books in one edition. So having a duology, or, you know, again, an omnibus of multiple books was just such a great idea that I thought was something that could also be passed along to others. Another thing, which this one I kind of sort of expected to be at these, but it was so cool to see all the different versions and how other authors did it. But they did like sprayed edges. So I got this particular copy by C.L. Breyer, and she did these really cool sprayed edges, which I'm going to turn it around side to side so you can kind of see just how beautiful this edition of this book. Like, I think this is a Hades and Persephone story, so lots of fun there. But just like having these at the event as well was just so cool. And again, this was not the only author that had these. There were multiple authors that had these. This is just one that I happened to be interested in and picked up. But if you're going to do these events, like, you know, if you're considering doing one of these events and you have books that you could get sprayed edged, either you could find out how to do it yourself, or there are plenty of other companies and other artists and stuff like that who you can pay to do this for you. You just order some copies of your books, you send it to them, and they'll send you back the copies with the sprayed edges. So I just thought that was pretty cool. The other thing, which technically this isn't a special edition, but I have a reason for it, I promise. So some of the authors at this event were bringing books before they were released. So they were about to be released and they got like an advance copy of it, and they were selling a couple of their advance copies at the event. So I have Roots and Ink by Ariel Lamonti, but this was a really good idea because her book came out. So this event was on like one of the last weekends of February, and her book came out the first week of March. So it was, you know, advanced enough that if you wanted to get like your copy of this book before the actual published date, then you could at this event and even get it signed. I got it signed. But really, really, really good idea to have advanced copies of a book, especially I pulled this one because this is the only one that I got of that particular case, but there were other authors, again, with like the one book at the table. It was a kind of like a pre-launch thing that they were doing where they brought a bunch of advanced copies and they were signing them and all that kind of stuff at the event. So having those there were very, very good. Kind of along the edge of some of the sprayed edges stuff was, so for example, Decadence by, I'm so sorry, I have to read it, the Dagmar Avery and Charlotte Steele. They got the gold foiling done for their book, for this edition of this book. So you can kind of see it better on the back, but you can see the gold foiling. So that's also a really good idea that I saw. Another thing, which was really unique and I think is actually kind of genius in a way as well, some of these authors wrote short stories or novellas specifically for this event. So they posted on their social medias well in advance saying, hey, I'm going to be giving out a novella or a short story or like a bound short story for free at this event, but you can only get it at this event. It's this right here. It's Kel Bruem. I'm so sorry. I hope I said that right. Kel Bruem. Absolutely genius. You can see it's not very long. I think I think this edition's like less than 50 pages. Quick little novella, but it's genius. And she was handing these out completely for free. And she basically, when I was talking to her about it, she was like, it's kind of like a little snippet of her work. And she was like, if you've never heard of me before, like me, you have a little snippet of my work and you can read it and you can check it out. And if you really like it, then you can buy more. You can actually buy some of my books. So this was absolutely genius. Even just as something as simple as like a short story, something like that, and having it in either, again, selling it for a very small amount or having it for free like she did. Absolutely genius. And the last one that I'm going to bring up is anthologies and short story collections. Sort of ties in with the other one, but more elaborate in the fact that simply these editions, so I'm going to show you this one. So it's Deck My Halls, which I love the title alone, but you can see how many authors are listed on this book. They had anthology collections and short story collections that they were selling at certain tables, in collaboration with other authors. Basically, I went to the table for this author, saw this edition that she was telling me about it, and I was like, oh, that sounds really good. And it's like a bunch of short, romance, Christmassy themed short stories. I was like, that's so fun. I'd love that. She was there, and the table directly next to her was one of the other authors that collaborated on this with her. So once you got done with her and she signed the edition, you could literally step to the right, step to the right, and the next author would sign this, and so on and so forth, until you have this very unique copy, which has multiple authors that have signed it. So it's unique in the way that it's unique because it's an anthology and, short story collection, which I personally really enjoy. But it's also special because you have multiple authors who participated in this, who were all lined up in like a nice little row. So you just you buy the edition from one author, you go to the next table, and they all sign it. So that was really cool. This was not the only group that was doing this, but this was just the one I happened to pick up. But it was really cool seeing a bunch of different authors doing anthologies and stuff like that and selling those at the event as well, because you could just pick one up and move on. If you made it to the end of this video, I thank you. I can be a little verbose. I'm a better writer than a speaker, let's just say it that way. But this is basically what all I learned from this event as an author who's never done an event like this before, being a reader at this event. So it was really fun to see both sides of the fence, so to speak, as somebody who is an author, who is interested in eventually participating in events like this, but also seeing the author side and seeing how they handled things and what they brought, what they didn't bring, all that kind of stuff. So if there's anything that I learned, it was just how much fun these events are and how worth it they are at the end of the day. That was such a wonderful and unique and beautiful community of readers and authors who all just wanted to get together and talk about what they love. And it was absolutely one of the most fun events I've been to, and I'm definitely going to go again. And hopefully someday in the future, I will be an attending author there. So if there's any other writers out there who has watched this video, I thank you. I hope you're doing well, and that you're actually writing your work in progress and not using my video as an excuse to not write, because I've been there, done that. But I will see you guys again in the future, and I will have another fun fic fact at some point coming up. I've got some work that I've been doing to generate material for that. So hopefully I'll have that posted here soon. Until then though, I will see you guys later. Have a good one.